I'd like to call the Clarkson Independence District Library Board of Trustee meeting for August 18th, 2014 to order at 6 o'clock. Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll, please.
Dan Gaffney. Here. Michelle Ginn. Here. Dan Green.
Here.
Mary Hamburg. Here. Allison McFadden Giesling.
Here.
Marilyn Pomeroy.
Here.
Kay Robertson absent. Julie Mary here.
Okay. I'll accept a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved. I second it.
Do you have that, Debbie? Okay. It's a race there. Okay. It's been moved and seconded that the agenda be approved as presented. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The agenda is approved. Call to the public.
This month, the Friends of the Library, we did not meet. We took a little hiatus, but right after Labor Day, as many of you know, we will be back very busy as we have our Friends annual fall book sale. And then we'll be getting ready for some other activities for fall and also gearing up for our holiday book sale in December.
Thank you, Marion. Sue, do you have anything you want to share, or are you just keeping us company tonight?
I love you all.
We love you. We appreciate you. We thank you very much for all of your assistance in the last few months, several months.
Several months.
Almost a year.
I'm curious if something's going into your official minutes about the successful election.
I have it in my library director's report.
So we will handle that. Thank you. Okay. At this point, we close the public call and move to the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
John seconds it. Okay. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda. No one wishes to remove any item. All right. If not, those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion is carried. Now, to the meat of the day. The library audit presentation. We've been waiting for this for a long time, as have you.
Yes, see, you and I both. What I did, and Julie already commented on it, but I took what I thought was important and I condensed this so we can all follow along this. These are excerpts pulled directly from the audit report, and rather than flip through pages, I thought I'd put it in a little presentation booklet. So
Thank you.
Yeah. Hopefully it goes easier. This is the first time I've tried this way. So, but we'd like to thank Julie and Sharon Duckworth and all of the library staff for their courtesy, cooperation, and assistance. We certainly had our challenges, not from the library staff,
We know.
but we can all look forward to next year's process going a lot more smoothly. So, what I plan to do is highlight what I think are the key areas or the important parts. As I said, I've taken excerpts out of the audit so that you have those in front of you. I also put together a couple drafts because a lot of people like to look at pictures more than the financial statements themselves. So. Got those in here.
Especially on an audit, I think.
Yeah, no, it's an exciting topic.
Yes,
But crucial.
I'll try to keep it brief, but if you've got questions, feel free to stop me at any time and go through those. But just past the title page, we have the independent auditor's report, and these reports have been getting longer as the auditing standards have come out. Used to be a 3-paragraph report, now I've got 3 pages. So, but just to run through this quickly. The report on the financial statements, having re-audited the library's financial statements for the year ended December 31, 2013. The next section down, the financial statements are management's responsibility. Our responsibility is to give you opinions on those financial statements. And so that's under the auditor's responsibility. To do that, to give you our opinions on the financial statements, we considered the library's internal control. We did a risk assessment to determine what was the risk of material misstatement of the financial statements. And we believe that our audit work was sufficient to provide opinions on the financial statements. On the next page, page 2, we did have to qualify an opinion on the governmental activities. And you'll see in a minute, as a special purpose government, you have some options as to how financial statements are presented. And there are two bases of accounting that are encompassed in a governmental financial statement. One is at the fund level, which is a modified accrual basis of accounting, and then the other one is the government-wide level, which is the full accrual basis of accounting. This started with GASB Statement 34. GASB is a governmental accounting standards board. They issued Statement 34 in 2003, and so we've been living with this statement for a while. But as a special purpose government, you have the option of showing both bases on one page. So it simplifies the reporting a little bit and actually gives you a visual of how we get from modified accrual to full accrual. But we did have to qualify our opinion on the full accrual statements on the governmental activities because of this OPEB valuation issue. And I assume everyone's aware of what the issue was. But there wasn't the measurement of whether you had an asset or a liability related to the OPEB trust. I presume that you have an asset, but without that study, we don't know. So I had to qualify the opinion on that. So under the next section down, in the end, we decided that it was best to move forward without that valuation and just get financial statements issued. So we had to qualify the opinion. The next section down, we did give an unmodified opinion on the fund level financial statements for your general fund. So there it states, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects. That's the important phrase. Present fairly in all material respects is what we refer to as the unmodified opinion. That's really what you want to see for all of your financial statements. But and you'll have that next year. I'm confident of that. Under the next section, we have a couple emphasis matters items. There was a change in accounting principles. GASB Statement 65 was effective for this fiscal year, and it reclassifies certain items that were formerly liabilities. Now we're calling them deferred inflows. A liability is very specific as to what its definition is, and that's money you owe other people. For years, we were calling income tax, or not income taxes, property taxes that you levy on December 1 for the next fiscal year. We're calling that a deferred revenue and a liability. And it's not a liability. It's not something you owe to someone else. It's money you're going to get in the future. So now it's called a deferred inflow.
Okay.
The next section down, going concern, because of the timing of the issuance of this report, we didn't know whether the millage was going to pass or not.
Right.
And so we had to include this. It wasn't that I didn't think it would, it's that I didn't know if it would. So I had to include this going concern paragraph. Again, that'll be gone next year. And then on page, Roman numeral 3, under other matters, required supplementary information. The RSI includes management discussion and analysis, which precedes the financial statements, and then the budgetary comparison information, which is your budget versus actual statement that's in the back of your formal audit statements, audited financial statements. We don't audit the RSI, but we do audit the financial statements in which they're prepared. So we don't give an opinion on required supplementary information. We give our opinion on financial statements. All right, so then we get to the numbers themselves, the next couple of pages here. And as I said, you've got both bases of accounting covered in one statement. So on page 1, which follows all the Roman numeral pages in your audit reports, we have both the governmental fund balance sheet and the statement of net position. So in the left-hand column, you've got your general fund. We have some adjustments that get you from modified accrual to full accrual. And the right-hand column, you've got your full accrual statement of net position. Now, generally, the fund level financial statements are more familiar for boards because this is the level at which you prepare your budgets and you see your reporting throughout the year. And so I like to look at what you have left. As a snapshot in time, December 31, 2013, your fund balance is the second number from the bottom in the left-hand column, $431,743. Now, a portion of that is non-spendable, and the non-spendable fund balance is equal to $22,816. You'll notice that that's the same number as what you see, the third number down from the top. That's your prepaid expenditures. So a typical example of that would be insurance for property and liability. You pay the full year's premium in November, but that's only 1 month of expense, or 2 months of expense, and then the rest of it is prepaid. So you can't spend that again, you've already spent it. So that's why we have to call that non-spendable. So that third number from the bottom in the left-hand column is the unassigned fund balance, $408,927. That's what you have available for future use. And I'd like to compare that with your total expenditures for the year. And so on page 2, your total expenditures, about the middle of the page, the left-hand column, $894,046. So that $408,000 represents approximately 46% of your budget, your operating expenditures. The Government Finance Officers Association, the GFOA, recommends a minimum of 2 months' worth of normal operations in your fund balance. And you're at 46%. 2 months, 2 divided by 12, 17% approximately, and you're at 46. So you're in good shape, sound financial condition.
That's what we like to hear. That's the key phrase.
Yep, it is, and I'm long-winded, so
That's all right.
I try to go quickly, but that's a little bit of a background for what we're looking at anyway. On page 2, this is the operating statement, covers 12 months, ended December 31, 2013. Again, the fund level on the left-hand column, the full accrual level on the right-hand column, or in the right-hand column. Total expenditures for the year, as I said, $894,046. And as you get from the fund level to the statement or full accrual level, we have to make some adjustments. So we add in depreciation expense, but we back out capital outlay. So any capital items that you buy that would be depreciated over time, at the fund level, you're just going to expense it. But at the full accrual level, you're going to put it on your balance sheet or your statement of net position and depreciate it over time. So we've got to make some of those adjustments. And as you can see, that added $162,000 to the expenses to get to the full accrual level. Then we add to that, or add back to that, the program revenues, donations, penal fines, cot for service, charges for services, those sorts of things. And we come up with a net program expense. Most governmental activities will have a net program expense by nature. That tells you the extent to which you rely on your general revenues. And your general revenues are defined by, again, GASB Statement 34, and they are property taxes, state aid, interest, and then we have miscellaneous income as well. So your change in fund balance is the fourth number from the bottom. $132,543 was added in 2013. And then the depreciation expense was actually greater than your capital outlay, so at the full accrual level, you actually used about $30,000 with your net position. So, but again, I think most people like to look at the graphs. So if you turn to the next page, you don't have a lot of history here, obviously.
No.
So we've got 2 years worth of the bar. I like to do 5. You've got 2 years worth of data here. 2012 wasn't even a full year, partial year, August through December.
Right.
And then 2013 was the first full year of operations. So it just gives you a visual perspective. Your revenues did exceed your expenditures. At the fund level, you added to your fund balance. So that difference between revenue and expenditures is how much the yellow bar increased. And this graph will become more meaningful over time. But
Yeah, we're new at this.
yeah, thought I'd throw it in there anyway. On the next page, you've got a couple of pie charts that detail out the composition of your revenues and expenditures. Again, this is at the fund level. 90% of your revenue is generated through property tax. And then on the expenditure side, I typically will add your salaries and your payroll taxes and employee benefits together. So 69% of your expenditures are related to personnel, which is not surprising. That's pretty typical. You're a personal services oriented industry here. So again, in future years I'll have better comparisons and tell how that composition may or may not change over time, but don't have much to compare it to right now. In addition to the financial statements themselves, we did issue a report on internal control. This is our letter of comments and recommendations. And a couple of things here. We have segregation of duties is our first comment, and that's simply because smaller offices will have a segregation of duties problem. There just aren't enough people to really get to work. And specifically, we talk about the receiving side of the transactions. And the intent of internal control is that one person shouldn't be able to control an entire transaction cycle, whether it's revenues, expenditures, payroll disbursements, AP disbursements.
For safety.
Yes, yep. So when somebody's got access to not only the assets and the records, that's a segregation of duties issue. Then we just had some comments under compliance and other matters. Written procedures and policies, again, probably the product of being a relatively new organization. We are recommending a few, well, actually just one, the credit card policy. When you have a credit card, you are required to have a credit card policy by the state treasury. Not only is it a good idea, best practice, but the state requires it. So we're recommending that you have one of those. The budget amendments, we noticed that some of them were done after the end of the fiscal year, and really those should be done prior to December 31. Off-site storage, again, for your own benefit and protection. You should store your data off-site, especially your financial data. QuickBooks backup. Record retention, as a general rule, records should be retained for 7 years. Certain payroll records are required to be kept forever, but as a general rule, we want to keep things for 7 years. And then the last comment is on the access to the safe. You should be limited to just a few people. Everybody doesn't need access to it. Again, not that we saw anything or had any specific concerns, but just for your own benefit and protection.
Preemptive.
Yeah. I know I went through that quickly. If you've got questions about the presentation or anything in the full-blown audit report, I'm happy to answer those.
Because we did read it already. And we were aware of the difficulties you encountered. Just wanted to make sure you knew those were not of our
No, never
making or design.
Never thought they were.
And especially as a new entity, this was
Well,
an interesting
it was
experience.
interesting, but you know what, if this is the worst of it, I'm looking forward to next year.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any questions?
Because I've been through this with a retirement system.
Okay.
I'm kind of familiar with the audit thing. I was just thought maybe you could go into a little more detail about the going concern issue, because that sounds so much worse
Well,
than I think it actually is under these circumstances, but
We're required to put a going concern paragraph in your opinion, and then it's repeated in the notes to the financial statements. If there's question about your ability to remain in existence for 12 months after the fiscal year.
right.
So that's why it's there.
I know.
And the millage that
It looks so ugly. but
Yeah, I know.
I think it had to be there.
Well, it does have to be there, I know, because
Timing.
should we not have passed the millage, then if this had never been there, then bankruptcy is not really an option under governmental accounting rules and all. I mean, it's just, I get why it's in there, but I just, you know.
That's probably more for our protection.
Well, yes, right, because if you didn't, you know,
Yeah.
right, oh, absolutely. And I know, I mean, I do get it, it looks so. I was less concerned personally about the qualified opinion, because, again, that was something,
Out of your control, but
right,
Right, we've
had
examined
to do it.
right.
We're familiar with this from having to write millage language, which must be stated in certain ways,
Yeah.
because that's the way it has to be.
And Gatsby
Even
has
if
all
it's not as
kinds of
clear as it
rules.
might be.
Well, believe me, I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to qualify the opinion. And we talked about, do we hold out? And then it became clear that holding out wasn't going to do us any good. We're not
we've
gonna
been
get it.
holding
So,
out.
No, at some point you have to, I mean,
You
timeliness
just have to-
becomes an issue, and you have to do what you have to do.
Timing
you
just
know.
wasn't desirable. But
But we're pleased to have this under our belt, the first one. And now that we have a new fiscal agent, things should be smoother and we have a better idea of what we're doing.
And more control over what we're doing.
Right. And we've been in the process of policy review anyway, so this is a new area for us, so we will add these policies.
The credit card policy is interesting because it's something we inherited from the township when we separated out. We don't have it documented in our own way, but I read through it, we're following it. We just need to document it, so it's all ready. I made a note, it'll go on the board's agenda next month, and it can clear it up and we'll get it done. So that'll be out there, there's some things to do, so.
Well, we thank you so much for,
Thank you.
for the year's work. We felt you sincerely earned your salary this year.
You probably feel that way
That's
too.
good. All right,
So
thank you.
thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I need, pardon?
Do we want to do a motion to accept?
Yes, we do. So we need a motion now to accept
I
the
will make
audit.
that motion.
Jan makes the motion. Is there a second? Dan seconds to approve the 2013 audit as presented. Are there any other comments or questions before we move on this? If not, all those in favor of approving the library's 2013 audit as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Now, for the library director's report.
I tried to keep it concise this evening, just some high points. Under general information, last month we talked about a bronze sculpture to be donated to the Friends of the Library. So in regards to the bronze sculpture donated to the Friends of the Library for the library grounds by Ron and Elizabeth Wagner that was discussed last month, we have coordinated the delivery of the statue by the end of August and discussed the pouring of a slab for the statue to sit upon within the flower bed suggested by the Garden Club. The Friends Board expressed a willingness to pay for the necessary foundation, but it will likely need to be poured in the spring due to the workload of the area concrete contractors. The Garden Club would like to designate a committee to develop the landscaping around this addition, so they will be prepared in the springtime. And as you know, the library's garden beds are funded and maintained entirely by the Clarkston Farm and Garden Club. But in this case, the Friends of the Library and the Garden Club are excited to collaborate to integrate this gift into the library's landscape. So this is, it's quite a spectacular piece. It is a beautiful bronze sculpture of a tree with 4 children on it. Really quite lovely.
Julie, where will it go until spring?
Until spring, we're going to set it on the biggest piece of concrete we have.
By the flagpole?
Which is by the flagpoles. Yep. And I've talked to Anita Andes and Pat Chase, who have been working on the library's gardens. And we're looking to integrate it into the garden over here by the bike racks. So that's the area that we're looking at. Everybody's very excited to put it there because these gardens out front of the entryway are children's literary gardens, and this tree does remind us very much of the Giving Tree, which is a South Silverstein book. So we would like to integrate it into the garden there. We really had hoped to kind of get it in there and put up the donation sign and get it all done this fall, and then the realities of concrete have been a little bit slowing in terms of getting this done. But we've got a plan, and quite honestly, I think it's better for the Friends because they're going to have the chance to get that concrete poured for us, and then also the Garden Club because they want to integrate it in, so they'll have a little more time to plan the flowers around it and determine what they want to do because they want to make some changes to that area to highlight it a little better, to frame it, I think is kind of what they're thinking. So
It'll be really nice.
it'll be beautiful.
beautiful.
It'll be really
So
beautiful.
appreciate
And,
Yeah, it's really nice donation.
Ron and Elizabeth were very generous to donate this to the library. So we're very excited.
Have we formally sent them a thank you for this?
Not quite yet, because it hasn't formally been moved. And actually, we were still discussing the movement of this Friday and today. So, I mean, this literally is happening kind of in an instant. It's interesting, they've had this beautiful sculpture out behind their house. And Elizabeth said when they bought it, her friend said to her, "What are you going to do with this when you move?" And she said, "I'm going to give it to the library." Well, she didn't tell us that till recently. But she said it was always her intention for us to have it. And they are moving. And so she called and she came in and said, I'd really like for you to have this. So it's been a little bit of a frenzy to figure out how to get it out of their way while they were moving.
And before the new owners
and before the
arrive.
new owners arrive, yeah. So it's been a little bit of a sprint, but
It's heavy.
it's about 1,000 pounds and it's 7 feet tall. So this is no
It
tiny
has
little thing. It's quite
Long roots.
It's quite lovely. It really
I can't
is.
wait to see it.
Yeah,
I'm
it's-
excited about it.
It's quite lovely. So. Okay. More good news. I have a millage update. It is my pleasure to announce that the library's millage proposal on the August 5th ballot passed with a margin of 68% yes votes. The proposal passed in all precincts within the township and the city, as well as the absentee ballots. The city manager stated that 100% of their absentee ballots were returned, which is a first, and felt it was the library's proposal that prompted this high return. I also spoke to the city manager about the resolution to reduce the city's general fund millage, and she stated that is already being taken care of and we should not worry. This millage collection, as well as the city's adjusted general fund millage rate, will appear on the December 2014 tax bill, and this approved funding will be part of the library's 2015 budget. We would like to thank the community and let everyone know that the library staff will spend the next few months preparing to roll out expanded services and hours in January as described during the educational process about the millage. So,
And
thank you very
Julie,
much,
you're
everyone.
putting a letter together for the paper? Oh,
It's already been sent.
Marilyn sent a
Okay.
letter to the paper, yep. so
Would you like me to read it?
Sure, that would be nice.
The Clarkston Independence District Library Board would like to thank the city and township residents who supported a community library dedicated to providing services to both book and technology users in the 21st century. The collection of this funding will begin in December 2014 and will be used as the library's 2015 budget. The library board and staff will spend the next few months preparing to unveil expanded services in the new year. In addition to restoring hours and increasing programs and materials, both physical and electronic, we look forward to expanding collaborations with the schools and promoting resources to help local businesses succeed. We have also developed a capital improvement plan, developing a capital improvement plan to properly maintain the library building and the grounds. We encourage the residents of Clarkston and Independence Township to attend library board meetings and the library itself to be involved in these plans as they develop and unfold. Marilyn Pomeroy, Library Board President, Clarkston Independence District Library.
Can I say something about the millage and the Yes Committee?
Yes.
One of the things that I found most encouraging about particularly the Yes Committee is that we had people from widely varying social and political views that came together to help in this particular cause. And it seems to me that we might be a model for larger governmental agencies who have
Cooperation.
problems getting together. So I was very pleased about that.
Thank you, Dan. Any other comments regarding the millage update?
Just hooray.
Yes. I know. I also was very impressed with the dedication and the involvement of all the community members, and the fact that the one-on-one involvement with members of the community who were willing to ask questions and discuss propositions with everyone individually, I thought was very important in the education process. So it left us with a very good feeling that it passed in all areas of the township. So I think congratulations and are in order. And I would hope that all members of the community feel free to utilize the services either within the confines of the library or from home using their library cards. So thank you. Back to finance.
The library did receive the second state aid payment of $10,575.22. This finalizes the total amount we will receive in state aid for this fiscal year. The library also received the penal fine payment from Oakland County for a total of $53,437.07. This is $6,207.28 more than last year, and the second year in a row that we've seen this funding improve after a steady decline, a significantly steady decline, that began in 2006. So this is much relief on this part.
Yes.
We have completed the process of closing the HVSB bank account and transferring the funds to the Clarkson State Bank account as the board directed. So that's all set. And after a conversation with the township clerk, I believe the township is committed to working on and completing our OPEB issue by the end of this year that is indicated in the library's audit report. The township's finance director has posted the RFP for the needed actuarial last week and suggested that the township would be interested in the library board designating a small committee to work with them on this process. So Jan and I have been working directly with them, kind of trying to move this along a bit, but it sounds like the township would like a committee, which I think Jan and I are not quite large enough to be a committee.
Almost there.
So
we
if
need help.
anyone else would like to be a part of this going forward, the process, as I'm understanding it, is there will need to be an actuarial. This is the money that is for retiree health care that was put aside in a trust fund. It is primarily made up of dedicated library millage money. The township has one retiree from the library that money needs to accommodate for retiree health care. So the actuary will show how much of that money needs to be left in that trust fund so that the township may supply this benefit. And then the rest of the money would be technically considered overfunding and should be released. Because it is dedicated library millage money, the township is to return it to us. Now, the question will come up, the negotiation piece of this will be, an actuarial is an estimate. So we will need some kind of a contractual agreement that basically says, if the township's actuarial, being an estimate, is not enough money, that the library should provide that money to accommodate that person's benefit going forward. If that person passes and they no longer need that money, then they should turn the remainder over to us. So that's basically the gist of what needs to be done. We need to kind of figure out how much the money the township should turn over through actuarial, and then we need an agreement. Obviously, we get the attorney involved in that everybody is comfortable with to make sure that it's all appropriate. So.
Okay. Excellent. Any questions about the director's report? It's been a very busy time. So,
Indeed.
all right. In that case, let us move to regular business, of which we have 5 items. First one is discussion of the library network download destination participation agreement.
The library's been a participating member in the Library Network's Download Destination Program, which is our Overdrive program. That's our downloadable audiobooks. We've actually been involved in Overdrive since 2004, so this is not really new. In an effort to better document this relationship, TLN's committee, made up of representatives from the member libraries and TLN administration that oversees this service, developed a participation agreement to be approved by resolution by each library's board of trustees. The committee developed the agreement, which has been reviewed by TLN's director and the library director of those participating libraries. Essentially, they wrote down what we've been doing all along. We have a contract with Overdrive that is overseen by the Library Network, which is a cooperative of libraries. TLN was a little bit concerned that we have this contract with Overdrive, but they're sort of managing it in between. They're kind of the pass-through for the money, and they make sure that the libraries, because it's several libraries that work together, are all cooperating and doing what we're supposed to be doing and that kind of thing. And they thought perhaps they should just document that this is what we're doing. So essentially what you're looking at is an agreement to approve that you are comfortable with the way we've been doing this for the last several years.
And are you comfortable with the way we've been doing this? the last several
Absolutely,
years?
absolutely. This is something that they put a lot of thought and time into this agreement, but essentially its purpose is to kind of reiterate what the contract says, that the stipulations of what we signed for in terms of using the service and the purchasing that we do with it. all it does, the only thing that's added is that it clarifies that TLN is merely a pass-through. And essentially, it says that if we default on paying overdrive, it's not TLN's responsibility to cover for us and those kinds of things, which are absolutely the way it should be. So,
Okay. Do we have a motion in this area?
I move to approve the library network download destination participation agreement that's in our package.
I second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the library network download destination in participation agreement as presented. Are there any questions or comments? The document seems very well thought out.
they worked really hard on it. We've been looking at it several times over the last probably year and a half, so it's been well reviewed.
All right. In that case, all those in favor of...
They would like a roll call for this, if
roll
that's
call, all right.
Dan Gaffney,
Yes.
Michelle Ginn,
Yes.
Dan Green,
Yes.
Mary Himberg,
Yes.
Allison McFadden Kiesling,
Yes.
Marilyn Pomeroy,
Yes.
Bill Robertson absent. Thank you.
Okay, next item.
In your packet, Bill Bowman, our head of circulation and IT manager, is presenting an updated damaged and lost materials policy. This policy has simply been updated with pricing that reflect the current costs of processing materials. So what you're seeing is a list of essentially what we charge. If, for example, if somebody loses a DVD, our DVDs are in lock boxes, and the processing fee that we charge pays for the cost of that lock box because they're far more expensive than little plastic boxes that you get when you buy the DVD. And it takes into consideration our security tags and things like that. We had not updated these numbers in a while, and so he did the research, looked at our invoicing, found out what we are actually paying for these, and made adjustments to the prices accordingly. And he's asking for the board to approve this price structure.
So this price, so we're only charging for damage beyond normal wear and tear.
Generally speaking, most of the time, it's if an item is completely lost that we charge these. So, for example, if the DVD is completely gone, we're charging you for the box because not only are we replacing the DVD, but we're also having to buy a brand new box for it. So,
I appreciate that he updated the policy.
I move that we approve the new damaged, lost materials policy as presented by Bill Bowman.
I second.
Support.
Okay.
Who's set?
Allison
This
beat me
is
to it.
Allison's turn.
You beat me to it. Fair and square.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the damaged lost materials policy as presented. Any other commentary or questions? If not, those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion is carried. All right, next.
it's time to discuss the employee health insurance plan. We are currently offering a HAP 2020% with a $15, $30 office visit and a 20, 40, 60 prescription, with the employees paying 20% of the premium. Kim Hopkins of the Walters Financial Group has informed me that despite pending health care changes due to the Affordable Care Act, HAP is allowing groups to keep their current plan for one more year. This is an anticipated, there is an anticipated increase on December 1st, 2014 of 7.9%, but she did do the legwork for us, and quotes on new plans have higher premiums and out-of-pocket costs. So our agent is advising clients being given this option by the company that they're using, if you're giving this option to renew it, to take it. So tonight the library board is being asked to approve the recommendation to pursue renewing the current plan. Further discussion and approval of the actual plan details and the premiums will be presented at a meeting this fall. September or October. She's thinking September, but it depends on when those real numbers come from HAP. So really all she's looking for is how you feel. Do you want her to pursue other plans, or are we, generally speaking, taking this recommendation?
7.9% sounds like a reasonable increase given what healthcare costs typically do, so.
Their estimate, because they didn't know how the Affordable Care Act was going to affect healthcare costs last year when we were having this discussion, I think I think Allison and Mary will both remember that their estimate was between 6% and 90%. They generally had no idea. what was gonna
That's
happen.
pretty broad, yeah.
Yeah, it's a
It's
big,
very
big range. So she felt like this was probably the best path for us, the way to keep the healthcare costs as low as possible for one more year, while the details are kind of being hammered out of what comes next. So,
Okay.
It's definitely a
So
good safeguard.
both Mary and,
Will we be meeting with Kim again?
as soon as she's got those numbers, we'll
Okay.
meet, and then, as, basically what she did was she called me and she sent me an email documenting that this is kind of where we are, and she wanted to know, do you want me to do, she did basics in terms of plans that are similar to ours, and the range that the library and the staff have been willing to pay in terms of premiums, and we're either going to have to pay more, or we're going to have to take on more out-of-pocket costs, and so.
and our subcommittee has been working on that, so you know that this is definitely the case.
It's been an ongoing saga.
That's right. Therefore, is there a motion?
Yes, I move to approve the renewal of the current HAP healthcare plan for library employees.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we do the initial agreement to redo the HAP health insurance plan. Any other questions at this time?
But this is just interim, right?
Pardon?
This is just interim?
This is just interim. Basically, what she's saying is, do you want to do a full plan, or
Right.
based on this information, would your intention be to take the recommendation? You'll get, this is not a formal approval. At the next, probably September or October meeting, I think it'll be in September, but it depends on the numbers, you will get, like we've gotten in the past, the full listing of exactly what it'll cost,
Yeah.
plus what we would be paying per month, and what the employees would be paying per month in their per pay period expenditure. So you'll actually be making a formal approval, but she just wanted the board to sign off and say, yes, we think this is the direction we're headed, so.
Thank you, Dan.
Good clarification, thank you.
Okay, anything else? If not, I'll call the question. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, the motion has carried. Budget adjustments for concrete repairs.
After contacting several companies in an effort to get quotes to do needed repairs on the library's concrete sidewalks, we were finally able to get a quote from National Restoration, Inc. The quote to replace the damaged step and 30 individually marked concrete curb and walk areas is $3,995. Due to the unexpected cost of excessive snow removal, library's building and grounds budget cannot cover the cost of these repairs, making a budget adjustment necessary. So I'm requesting a budget adjustment of $4,000 from the library's fund balance into the building and grounds budget, which is line item 931.
Okay,
This is just something to get us through until we start collecting.
Indeed, yep, this is basically, let's make it safe.
Right.
And I don't want them, and
It's way overdue.
I think what the public needs to understand, I think there were people who were thinking that we were just not taking care of it. We literally, Debbie and I have spent the entire summer begging concrete companies to even look at what we have. It's such a small project, they're literally swamped in terms of the projects that they're doing. They're working on roads. And so to have them come and do this, a step, and the asphalt company as well, to do potholes, little potholes, it's just, even to get on their list. The one company I called said, yeah, I can talk to you in October. I have a step that's falling apart now. And he's like, sorry, it's the best I can do.
now,
So,
my question is, if we repair the curbing, not the step, but the curbing, which is where we have most of the issues, will that have to be redone when we look at the parking lot?
that's a really good question. And I think the company that did our pothole repairs, normally they do asphalt and concrete. And he's one of the first ones that told me, I can't even talk to you about concrete until October. But I have been talking to him in terms of recommendations so that people understand when we go forward with the parking lot, there's a number of ways to do this. township, when we were still a township department, had an engineer come in and basically assessed our parking lot and said, because it's 22 years old, because of the way that it was done, because it's sand underneath, because of a number of issues, that their estimate would be that it could be up to $300,000. Their recommendation was that it needed to be completely replaced. But obviously, before we go diving in feet first, our plan would be to look at all the options. And one of the things that I'm talking to a number of contractors about is, how would you recommend if we did it in sections? For example, we know the worst of it, having talked to our snowplow contractor, the worst of it is from the road all the way to the end of the parking lot, that whole driveway until you get past the drain to the end of the parking lot. His recommendation in terms of his interest in what our parking lot is like, and he's looking just at scraping the snow off the top of it, is that if we could get to that in the spring and completely replace that, he thought that the rest of it could be done, you know, in sections. He felt that that was the absolute worst. That was the part that he was struggling with it breaking out. That was the part that he cold patched multiple times throughout the winter just to keep it from
Disintegrating
further. So his opinion was that that was the most important part that needed to be done. In terms of how that would fit with the curbing, you know, now that we've talked to the asphalt guy who put in the potholes, he's saying that we might want to look at the possibility of, is it more cost effective to do it all as one project, or yeah, there's a lot of options. And so I think he would say, he agreed that when he saw what Debbie and I had marked was that these are the things that are potentially safety hazards. Mm-hmm. And then when National Restoration came out, they also said these are the things that are safety hazards. Let's get those done. The likelihood is, yeah, there are more significant repairs that are going to be done, that are going to have to be done next year.
And they may or may not involve having to tear out what just got put in, but
Absolutely.
in the meantime, we've made it safe for the interim.
At least through winter.
But the choices that we've made in terms of the company that did the asphalt work and the company that is doing the concrete work, I explained to them, our intention is to next year look at more significant repairs. And so they were looking at it when they were quoting out the job in terms of what do we really need to do, and they were trying not to recommend that we do anything that we would then just tear it back out and start over. So these are the very, very basics, with safety being the number one priority on our list.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I would move that we approve the budget adjustment of $4,000 from the library's fund balance to the building and grounds budget, line item 931.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we make a budget adjustment of $4,000 from the library's fund balance to the building and grounds budget, which is item 931, in order to repair the concrete step and other issues. Any other comments or questions? If not, those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion is carried. And that kind of moves us right into a discussion of capital improvements.
At the July meeting, the library board's discussion continued with the next step to create and implement a capital improvement plan, including a review of the staff's concerns about needed capital improvements. Priorities and format for this plan will be discussed this evening. So what I put before you is a reminder of kind of what we were talking about last month in terms of the staff's concerns and sort of the layout of the various types of work that would need to be done, the expected life expectancy, the year most recently installed or replaced, and then a calculation of its current age. So there are a couple of things. Mostly what I'm looking for tonight is some direction from the board, because what I would like to do as I bring forward the pieces of the 2015 budget in September and October in preparation for you to approve the budget either in November or December, is that this would be discussed in conjunction with budgeting. So really what I need is, how would you like to see it presented? My first question is, I had a long conversation with Bill Bowman, who is not only our head of circulation, but he is our IT manager. And as you know from our millage discussions, the library is required to have a technology plan. It's supposed to be a 3-year technology plan. We have not funded our technology plan since 2009. So we need to obviously update this plan and integrate it into our budget. Our capital improvement plan, a lot of organizations really struggle with where technology fits. Is that a capital improvement or is it not? In our situation, we're such a small entity that it really, and it's such a big part of what we do, it really is part of our capital improvements. It almost turns your capital improvement plan into a plan of, these are, I don't want to say it quite this way, they're big ticket items. And it all needs to be, I think, in front of the board as we're doing this budget discussion, because it worries me that we'll have this capital improvement plan, we'll sit down, we'll do the budgeting, we're talking about sidewalks, we're talking about asphalt, we're talking about roof and heating and cooling, all these kinds of things. We get all done with it, we approve what's going to be done, and then we've got this technology plan on the back burner, and then I bring that in, and the priority from the board, you look at it and you say, oh, well, we really want to replace the adult computer lab, we really want to upgrade the servers, and we've kind of committed the money elsewhere. And I think that in terms of planning, it might be wise to sort of lay it out as sort of the long-term expenditures that you would need to work into the budget. Because in a building this size, everything is a lot more expensive. You know, we're talking about a parking lot that could be a couple $100,000. We're talking about, you know, when we did the roof, that was a $90,000 expense, and that was just the flat part. That didn't include the shingles on the sides. Those are big ticket items, but so is a computer lab. So is the possibility of, you know, the furniture in a computer lab is starting to disintegrate. Yeah, and Bill says, you know, that to replace a computer lab could be more than just the actual computers and the plugs.
Right.
So I guess I'm interested how the board would feel about how you'd like to see this presented, so that when we're going through this budget process, you feel like you're getting the big picture and we're not going over it and then bringing in all these separate pieces.
I guess it would help for me to have the priorities stated. For example, let's say safety is our number one priority.
Okay.
Or it could be requirements by the government or the township or the area we're in. But somewhere in there, I would also like what the community said they wanted.
Okay.
To fit that in as well.
I think that's important too. With the millage, we did promise things to the community that with the millage would come, and we need to go back and look at those items that were priority, because some of those came about because those were priority to the community, and that's why they wanted to increase it. I would like to see both the capital improvements and the technology plan, at least side by side, presented together so that we could make an educated decision about how to spend the money.
With estimated cost, obviously, until you actually go out and get your bids and get ready to make a purchase, you won't know an exact cost, but I think you can, with some research, you can say, well, a parking lot of this size is likely to cost this much, because we want to be responsible with the money that we are now being charged with managing. But we also do, I agree, we want to give the residents the library that they want and deserve.
And one of my concerns is, because we have not funded our technology plan since 2009, pretty much everything is shot. But if we renew everything at one time,
then it all gets shot at the same time
again. So I think we
like
need,
building a new house.
we need to look at phasing some of these areas in, the most crucial, because we have things that are kind of in similar categories, like the groups that we went through before when we were discussing this from the presentation, the specification divisions. So we have areas, so I think
like the concrete work is grouped, and the roof work is grouped, and heating and cooling is grouped, and railings and things like that.
Right, so that we can look at those things and estimate how severe, but if water were coming in the windows, that would definitely move it to a higher priority.
Right.
That kind of thing, so that we can prioritize which things are in pretty good shape for their age.
And can then possibly be deferred until we...
A little later in the...
Right, because some things will be urgent on both lists. It's very likely that both on the technology side and on the building
and then there's some items
side
that impact other things, like the water softener. The water softener goes, then the hard water, the deposits that are coming in are going to affect the bathrooms, the sinks, the,
And we're struggling with a lot of plumbing issues that are
Plumbing
based on the
issues.
fact that our water softener is shot.
Yeah.
so some things need to be prioritized in terms of we don't take care of this problem, then
Then we're creating
we're going to
other
create this other
expensive
big problem further down the
Right.
line.
So it sounds like if I were to create a sort of an overall plan, and maybe we can divide it out later, maybe I'll put them all as sort of one thing side by side, the capital improvements and the technology, and maybe have a secondary column that identifies the priorities based on whether they are safety related, some sort of a governmental requirement, something that was prioritized based on community input, and then also take into consideration the possibility of phasing some of these things. So those are kind of the notes
I guess, yes, and for me, that would be, I guess, in a different way of saying it, things we don't have a choice about,
okay.
you know, that we just have to do this.
So I'm having trouble coming up with a word for it, but the first thing that we said was safety. We want to prioritize anything that would be a safety
Absolutely.
issue. So obviously the concrete step is a safety issue, so we
Right.
put that to the top of the list. But another thing that you might put to the top of the list is something that is causing damage to the building or could damage other
Components.
workings of
Like
the
the
building.
wall.
I don't
Right.
really have a word for that, but
No, but you're right, anything that either, I mean, and we know that we fixed the.
You had a leak.
the
You had-
part-
Remember
but if there
all
was
the
a leak or if
leak
there was a
issues that
plumbing
we
issue.
had.
Because not only is it potentially damaging the building, but then you risk damage to the collection, which
Right.
is sort of
And the
why we're
computers,
here.
Yes.
Right.
So,
Okay, so
yeah, I
anything
don't know
that-
the word.
I think the word is imperative, isn't it?
well, how about imperative building issues?
Yeah,
That could affect other parts of the
yeah,
building.
need to be
Okay.
done, like yesterday.
And
But
there,
safety, we're thinking in terms of like people safety, like our,
Yes.
like our patrons and our staff.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
and then when we look at some things, we might be able to do because they're not as expensive. So if we're talking about removing the bushes that are impeding the
Yeah.
exit for the fire issue over here, if, we may be able to,
So we need to include the pricing. This
yes,
is a-
because there are some things on the list that we could probably do a little higher because they don't cost as much.
Yeah, like washing the windows or cleaning the carpeting.
Yeah. Or removing the bushes so that we can put a correct sign on the building, which is impossible right now because nobody can get to that area because of the bushes.
Yeah.
We are finding that a number of the things that need to be done here are, it seems like one small thing, but it's impacting.
Yeah.
It's like at home.
It is.
You do that first little thing, but you have to do these other things.
And it's just like that, and it's interesting, one of the things that we heard as part of the public input in terms of something the library should have is that we should have some sort of a coffee service. Now, we obviously don't have space for a cafe, but we could, the Bloomfield Township Library has a really nice coffee machine that they have that does
Didn't we do
sort of
that a while
fancy.
back?
Well, we have
We have a
a pop machine and we have a snack
I thought we
machine.
had a cappuccino cart or something.
Many years
Yeah.
ago.
A long time ago.
But there has been recommendation that we could do something along those lines, add something along those lines to our snack space. But I would hesitate to do so because I know that it has to have water run to it, and I know we don't have a water softener, so it's one of those things.
That's
that-
the type of priority is that if we do this, then we can do that. And I think
So I
it's
need to
important.
indicate that, and
Right, I think that's one of the things that the public is aware that if we're talking about, for example, if we're going to talk about expanding hours, we have to, right now, we don't have enough staff to expand the hours. So you have to start to plan
Right.
to have the staff so that we can expand the hours. We have to have this so that we can do that. So I think that's, whether we need workshops to lay this out like we do with the budget.
I think it will turn into a workshop. I just wanted to make sure that I was headed in the right direction so that we didn't get into a workshop or a budget meeting and have you look at this and say, no, this isn't.
This doesn't help us.
This doesn't make sense to us. I want to make sure that what I'm presenting is what you have in mind. So what I'm hearing is, based on the initial graph that I've given you, that you want an added column that identifies priorities based on what kind of a priority it is, whether it's safety, a building issue that may affect other building issues, a governmental requirement or community input, and then another column that would give you pricing structures, so that you can also make decisions based on, well, this is.
Right, because we can go in and take care of all of the safety issues and then discover, oh, we still have this much
little-
money.
And this little
We
guy
can
is
look at these little
low-hanging
things
fruit,
over
let's go
here
ahead and do
and throw
this.
those in and do
Right.
them.
And if we space this out based on the age of the building, so that in some areas we're in very good shape. The roof shingles were replaced
In 2005.
in 2005.
So that should
Now,
be
even
good.
though your 25-year guarantee, as we all know, may not be accurate, but they're still in pretty good shape. So that could
Yeah.
move itself
Right.
further down the
Right.
list while we're still looking at, and we may, like the township did, begin to lay out a spreadsheet of which years we envision some of these things should be.
Yes.
Right, because some of your larger ticket items will require that kind
Yeah,
of
and
foresight.
share that.
So that we can actually start looking at it and saying, we know that it's going to be X amount of dollars to do the shingles, and we estimate that we want to do it in 10 years, and this is the amount of money we need to be setting aside, so that we can actually have a line item, as Aaron was saying, your fund balance should be about 2 months of operating, but that doesn't take into account the fact that if you're going to do a roofing project, you may want to have
Right.
a separate fund that's intended to pay for that, because we know in such and such a year we want to do the roof, and we should be squirreling the money away so that we're able.
Which is not unusual under government accounting rules,
Yeah.
to have a capital improvement fund designated only
that.
for those kinds of items.
But if we do our documentation properly, this spreadsheet, it will be obvious, this amount of money is set aside to do this project in this year, this amount of money is set aside to do
Yeah.
this project in that
Exactly.
year, and so then you kind of have a feel for why there's that amount of money in that account. It's not just this
Slush
fund,
fund.
it's not a slush
Right.
fund, this is designated money for a particular purpose in a particular year, and then when it's spent, we figure out what the next item is and start
Yeah.
preparing for that as well.
And the same thing could happen with the parking lot. You know,
Absolutely.
this year we'll do this.
Mhm.
Next year, it'll be this section.
Yeah.
And also, as I said, as we talked about last month, the maintenance piece of it, I think, is really important. I'm going to make a note so that I don't forget about that, okay, so we redo the parking lot, we need to have it sealed every year, we need to write that into the budget.
Yes.
We need to have it
Exactly.
repainted
Right.
every year, we need to have that written into the budget. We don't want to get to the end of the year and have me asking you in fund balance, for fund balance transfers, to do something that should be written in as an annual expense. Washing the windows, sealing the parking lot, those kinds of things should be annual events and we should maintenance.
Just like at home.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just like it. And we've gotten so far away from that in the last.
Well, because we were trying simply to keep the doors
Afloat,
open.
Yeah.
Yes, Sue?
In your discussion about the bushes and trees, I think if memory serves, at the last garden club meeting, there was some discussion about removing some of these.
Well, I talked to Julie about that. That would be like, if the time was right, we could actually use the bushes, to make the greens for the greens market, to do that. But Julie and Pat Chase, it turns out, they're concerned about the root system on these bushes. So I think that needs to be,
So you've already
we kind of.
made that correlation.
Or at
Yeah.
least,
Julie's
yes.
talked to Pat about
And
that.
we're thinking that in terms of the bushes, I've been talking, I talked to Pat, and Pat's not able to do some of the things that she was doing before, so Anita is also stepping in. But essentially what we've talked about is, perhaps if we time it properly, we could cut the bushes way, way back to provide that greenery for the greens market, knowing that in the spring we'll take it out. By the springtime, we will have some of this funding in our new budget. My concern is that if we take out these bushes, that the roots have gotten up under the masonry, and if we pull them out, and this was Pat's concern as well, that we could be looking at masonry repairs. So before we pull them out, let's make sure we have the money set aside just in case, so that we're not letting the building
Sink.
crumble and fall apart.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the thinking was, maybe we could cut the bushes way back in time for the greens market in the spring, pull out the root structure, and then be able to work with the masonry. So it's all about, and that's what this whole capital improvement plan is about, is laying out a timeline that makes sense so that we can maximize the benefit. If the greens market can get use out of something that we need to have
Removed.
removed or taken out in a big way,
Mhm.
let's see if we can time it so that everybody
We'll make
benefits
money.
from it.
Spend over here.
Yeah, so.
Just like home.
Yeah, and that's it,
We have done that at our
and
house.
you know
We
how
use the
many
greens and
projects we
gold
started at
bushes.
home where you don't anticipate, you do something and then there's a result that you did not anticipate.
Absolutely.
That's almost usually what happens.
That's what scares me about this bush project, to
Yeah.
be quite frank
It
about it.
almost is always what happens.
I'm hoping to be pleasantly surprised, but I'm really concerned that when we cut it way back, we're gonna find out that those are 22-year-old bushes and they've got quite a.
And I don't
Maybe
know-
they'll just cut them and not remove them.
Cut the roots.
Don't pull them out.
We pulled out an
Cut
old
'em off.
boxwood that died, and it was that old, I think, and it had very small roots.
My fingers are crossed for that.
But I don't know about that shrub.
Well, Pat was worried just because they're so close to the building. She's worried that they're growing right up against, so she's worried that the root structure has gotten up underneath
But
this.
that's an idea,
Yeah.
well, I think, is just,
Just cut them off.
Mhm.
Don't
They'll
pull them
die.
out.
right.
Until we're pretty sure about the
Yeah.
result.
Yes.
Yeah.
But so this ongoing discussion,
Mhm.
this will just continue
Yep.
as an ongoing thing. And actually, even once we have the plan, will be continually revisited.
Yeah, because it's like a living organism.
It is.
A capital improvement plan, capital
really
outlay
is.
plan is.
Yep.
And technology, I think, does need to be in there, because it is as well, constantly changing.
Right, and I think that in order to provide the services that the community wants and needs, updating the technology is a very, very big part of that.
Critical.
See, so based on our priorities of safety, issues that we have stated that we want to restore and improve.
Yeah.
So now that Julie has all of this
Yep,
to
we do.
And
add to
anything, and
the
anything
list.
that's covered under governmental regulations like the Americans with Disabilities Act or anything along those lines, those obviously need to be high priorities.
Nope, that's exactly what I needed, and I can picture in my head what it is that you're looking for so that I can present it. And as I start to roll out the budget, you'll be able to see it. And if at some point you decide you want to break the capital improvement plan and the technology plan into two pieces and look at them side by side, we can do that. But I think at this initial stage, maybe if I put them all together so that you're looking at it all at once and you can kind of see how it falls into place, then you'll be able to make that decision maybe more comfortably. So. Because I can see it working both ways. Bill and I went round and round about whether it should be included or not included. And I finally said, you know what, I'm going to ask the board how they want to see it, because they're the ones making the decisions, and if it's more comfortable for them to see it side by side, or if it's more comfortable to see it all at once, they'll know once they've seen how we've done it. So we'll try it one way, and if you don't like it, we'll change it. Okay, so, very good.
We're adaptable, aren't we?
Yes.
Yeah,
And
well, but
flexible.
we're all learning. This is a
We're all
learning
learning.
process for all of us.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right, are there any other questions or discussions about capital improvement at this point? No?
No, I think we.
If not, I will accept a motion for adjournment.
I think Sue had another question.
Yes.
And this goes back to an earlier item, the discussion of the sculpture that's going to be given to the library by
Wagner,
Wagner.
Elizabeth Wagner.
In the campaign for the library millage, one issue that was raised early in the campaign, and then not so much later on, was how can the library afford, why is the library spending its money on fountains in the front yard when it's, desperate for money? And my question is, when that sculpture comes in, and I realize it's not going to be actually permanently placed for several months, but when it lands on the premises, is there a way that this group can preemptively approach publicizing and thanking the Wagners for that gift so that it's not...
So that it's clear it was a
Look like we
gift.
ran out and started
Yeah,
spending
we can
our
put a
money on it.
plaque on it,
But I think that's a good point.
But apparently it's gonna sit here for several months before
Yeah.
the plaque gets posted.
I'm hoping that we'll be able to, I'm hoping that the Clarkston News will be excited about what a nice gift it is, how exciting it is that they'll want to do an article about it, because we're very excited about it, but also.
Some kind of a temporary sign might not be a bad idea
But Anita and I
either.
are already kind of trying to figure out in terms of signage, because we think the public should also be fully aware, as I mentioned in my director's report, that the library doesn't pay for any of the beautiful greenery out here.
Right, that's the garden
We mow the
club.
lawn and we put a little mulch in every year, but the garden club buys the flowers, plants the flowers, tends the flowers. The garden club is the one that put in the beautiful garden out front. They're the ones that put in the frog spitter. They're the ones that put in the vegetables. And all of
Yes.
all of those things are gifts from the garden club, all Greens Market.
Right, but we need to make
Right,
sure,
We need
and, right.
some signage, yes. Other people.
But that's what Anita was talking about. She emailed me earlier today and said, how can we put signage out around the library? How can we, she and I are in
Yeah.
conversation. So if you have
Because
any
it-
suggestions.
And even when we go to
Ears
pour,
are
when
open.
the concrete pad gets poured, it should be clear that that was a wonderful donation from our Friends group.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's what the Friends Group was supposed to be doing, funding things that are not in the library budget. And over the last few years, they have been trying to support the library budget
Right.
by funding things that should be coming out of the regular budgetary process. They should not be buying books. That's our,
Right, that's
that's
right,
the
that's
library
what we're-
administration job, but they didn't have the funding. So now it would be nice if the Friends will be able to get back to funding the luxuries
the fun stuff.
or the fun things that are not in the library budget. So, but a point well taken.
Do you have any suggestions of things that I should, I mean, like I said, Anita and I had been talking about signage and things like that, but do you have any suggestions with a PR background of things that we should specifically be trying to do that? I hate to put you on the spot, I didn't mean to do that, but.
No, but I think when that statue is delivered, and my understanding from your conversation is that that's imminent,
It is.
that
Because the move is imminent.
a picture of the move needs to be taken and at very least, posted in the Clarkston News and on the library's website.
On the website, yeah. Okay.
Maybe on the front door.
I was, or
Look at our
somewhere in the
beautiful-
lobby area,
Yeah,
just some
somewhere in
kind
the
of
lobby,
hey,
a
look what we got,
story
isn't
of-
this cool? This is what we're gonna do with it.
Yeah, even take a copy of the picture and put it on the front door. Take a copy of the picture taken at the
Yes.
point that
Right.
it's delivered and say, did you see it and where it came from?
I think that's, well, and I think the Wagners deserve especially this recognition, because this is quite an extraordinary gift, so we want to make sure that we're recognizing them as giving us this gift as well, so, yep. Okay, that made my notes, thank you.
Now,
I move we adjourn.
I'll second.
it's been moved and seconded that we adjourn the meeting. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And we are adjourned at 7:12. Thank you all so much.